Welcome to another episode of the Dentology Podcast, where we discuss the business of dentistry. In this podcast series, we'll be discussing all the non-clinical aspects of dentistry, from goodwill values, finance, marketing, how to buy and sell a dental practice, mindset, through to where you can invest your money in team management issues. My name is Andy Acton, and I'm joined by my co-host, Chris Strevens. Let's jump straight into it.
Well, he was a good lad.
Yeah, I mean, a really nice guy, and he's got a really good heart. He really does want to bring the best out in people.
Yeah, and it's funny, we were saying, very considered.
Mm.
You know, we know Joe, and he's always sort of, whoa, yeah, life and soul, yeah. But he was super considered. Obviously, a good thinker. A great thinker about what he's done and what's going on. I thought it was fantastic.
But also great insights in terms of where the profession's heading, the things that are interesting to young dentists, the things that bother young dentists, and how that could shape the future of the profession, but also people who deliver services into the profession. I
think it's one of those great ones from listening to him. The time that he gave for free for the charity, but also the fact of he's sort of on the ground floor because he's got the thoughts of these guys coming up. It's a bit like the lady from the BDA Benevolent Fund, which we learned so much from as well. Yeah,
and I think his this new concept for the dental debate, people should be really interested in hearing about that, and there's still time to book for that as well, which would be great.
To take part.
Yeah,
definitely.
Absolutely. So welcome to our latest episode of Dentology, the Business of Dentistry podcast. And today we are so pleased because Joe Lovett is joining us. And Joe is the founder of Catalyst Sales and Marketing. He's also the founder of Fast Track Your Future, which is a charitable driven initiative that he kicked off during lockdown. And we'll find out about that because it's a great initiative. It's a really generous thing that Joe does. He is an incredible networker. He's among the best. He's incredible. He knows everybody and he is everywhere. And he's an all-round top bloke. Welcome, Joe. How you doing?
Hey.
Oh, thanks for that lovely introduction. I appreciate the fact you've done some research as well.
Well, it'd be rude of us not to. Yeah. Rude of us not to.
Nice to see you both this afternoon, gentlemen.
Absolutely. Good to see you. Good to see you. Your youthful looks, they belie the fact that you've been in dentistry for over 14 years. So before we get into how you carved out a career in dentistry, online you post a lot of pictures about your family. You're obviously very much a family-driven man. So what was your childhood like? What did the young Lovett running around the garden, what was he up to?
Honestly, absolutely fantastic. Genuinely feel very, very blessed. I'm from a big family, and family, as you say, is very, very important to me. So my dad is one of 7 boys, and then they all had boys as well. So I'm one of 5, but my sister came along and she chose to disrupt it all. So poor Sophie Lovett, she's got loads of brothers and loads of male cousins. So feel sorry for her.
No other girls?
Sorry, say that again?
And no other girls?
Not on the Lovett side of the family, no.
Cool. I bet when she was young, finding a boyfriend was hard with all these brothers looking out for her.
I mean, God love my sister, honestly. She's absolutely hilarious and one of the kindest, most generous people you can meet. But yeah, having grown up with 4 brothers and having an incredibly dark sense of humour, she does. I think she makes it difficult enough for herself without us getting involved, yeah.
Well, I think I met your dad once in St Albans. When
really?
And I met you, we were wandering around St Albans somewhere. I can't quite remember, in the Maltings, I think it was.
Oh, okay.
A few years ago.
Yeah, no, my dad's a great man, honestly. He is just one of the hardest working people I know, still to this day. He's just there. It's quite funny, actually, because my dad's an accountant and he's very much old school, suited and booted. 9 a.m. till 6 p.m. There behind the desk, tie done right up to the top, even on a beautifully hot day like this. Whereas there's me, I swan around all day. As long as I have my phone, I'm working. So whether I'm emails or calls or messaging people, but he looks at me and he thinks I'm just literally swanning around the whole time. But we just obviously the natures of our business are incredibly different.
Yeah, and I think you're right, and I think a lot of what you do is networking. I know you spent a good number of years working with Ken Finlayson at FMC, and you were relentless. You know the chap, you remember him really well. But you were a relentless networker back then, in terms of, always being out, always being seen, always connecting the dots and putting things together. Is that just because you're interested in people, or was that kind of part of your strategy back then to build a network? Was there kind of science behind it?
Definitely no science behind it. I think it's my nature that I really, really enjoy meeting a broad spectrum of different people and different personality types. So it never ever feels like work for me. It never feels like work for me. But then over time you realize, actually, a lot of my business is built on relationships. I say to people, relationships are my currency, certainly for Catalyst. So yeah, no science or thought behind it. I just genuinely enjoyed it.
And you got to the dizzy heights of sales director at FMC, and was it those kind of the skills, the confidence, the networking that then gave you the confidence to go out and do your own thing?
Again, almost by accident, I think. When I first started, I really enjoyed it. We were driving up and down the country. And we were working hard, but without realising it. We would get in the car at 6 a.m, drive up to a small lab in Bradford and do a day up there. And then the next day you were in Phillips. So it was such a diverse, range of different companies and people that we were meeting. You used to obviously come and see you guys as well. So, but I really enjoyed it. So it never felt like work to me. And then because I enjoyed it, I felt I was working hard, and then I was doing well, and then things just progressed from there, really. And when one person would leave, they would go, "Oh, do you want to do this job?" I go, "Okay, yeah, I'll give it a while." And before you know it, sales director there. But yeah, really many happy memories there of FMC.
But you were globetrotting as well, weren't you? I remember talking to you many years ago where you were like, "Oh no, I'm off to China, and when I get back, I'm then off to Australia or wherever it might be." You were literally trotting all over the place. It was the life of Riley. You were this international jet setter.
Yeah, I think I'm safe to say it now that I'm 4 years removed from FMC. Yeah. But honestly, that was genuinely the cushiest job. Don't tell Ken. But I used
honestly, he won't be listening.
No, exactly. I'd be surprised if he listened to his own. But we used to sell licenses to other countries. I'm like, I think the Chinese would love to run Dentistry publication. I best go up there. Whilst I'm there, I might as well see the Great Wall, and it was good. And I'll never forget, honestly, it was one of the, probably in hindsight, one of the most hilarious meetings I ever had. But Ken and Kimberly called me around the house when the previous sales director left and said, "We'd like you to become sales director." And I was like, no, you're right. I'll leave it. I'm quite happy doing the international development. They were like, "No, we're not asking, we're telling."
Oh no!
So yeah, my jet setting days are over. Yeah, quite literally, yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I'm very grateful to them that I got to see parts of the world. I was involved in setting up Dentistry India. Like I said, spent time in China. All over the States, all over Europe. I had some incredible trips, honestly. It was amazing.
But also, you've got to grab those opportunities, because there would have been people that wouldn't have grabbed it. And I guess there's a certain amount of kind of everything coming together at the right time. You were the right age, you had the right attitude, the opportunity was there, and you took advantage of it. Yeah. Which is good for you, because some people perhaps wouldn't have.
Well, I think luck plays a factor. And like you say, right place, right time.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. You make your own luck. I'm a great believer in you make your own luck. I think
luck's timing and opportunity, isn't it? Yeah. I think it's being prepared. I think when things come along, if you're prepared for things and you have the right outlook, when things come along, you take advantage of them. And lots of people, I think, interpret that as luck.
That's right.
But actually, I think you were ready for when the opportunity landed. So, I think luck's an interesting one. I think you took advantage of that situation well.
And I think there's an element of positivity in there as well. I believe that, if you have a positive mindset, then positive things happen.
But I think it's that thing I was talking to somebody recently. I was saying about, we all should say yes to more things than we do. We talk ourselves out of so much stuff and we say no, or I can't be bothered, or not just yet. Whereas I think if you just keep saying yes to things, you've no idea really where it's going to go. And I know you've got to be careful because you can get pulled in lots of different directions.
Yes.
But exploring things on the first ask makes more sense than shutting things down too quickly, because you quite often you don't know what's behind it. There could be something really, really interesting behind it you never get to hear about because you said no too quickly.
Actually, I've been telling young dentists the reverse of that actually in recent times, that you need to say no more, because there's so many of them that just every opportunity that comes their way, they jump at it. And I'm saying, no. There's an element, there's a group of people out there that they never say no to anything. And I think it's
there's a risk that then that becomes desperate. I was talking to Simon Child at a recent event, and he said to me that he spent his 20s saying yes to everything, and now he's in his 30s. He say no to most things because he's worked out what's important to him, what's his focus, and where he needs to apply himself. But he said that by exploring things early on helped him. But you're right, you don't want to. There's a balance, and I think. The art is just being aware that there are opportunities out there and what to say yes to and what to say no to, so that you don't miss out on something. So you did your time with FMC. That sort of sounds like you were in prison. It was a good experience.
Then you were released for good behaviour. It was a good
time. And then you went on to set up Catalyst Sales and Marketing. So talk us through how did that come about, and what are the services that you offer to dentists through your enterprise?
And was it quite worrying when you started up and thinking, oh my goodness, I'm no longer employed?
Yeah, people always say that to me about, wow, you were brave to leave what was a good role and set up your own thing. But I don't, if I'm brutally honest, I always felt like if this doesn't work out, I'm sure with the cachet that I built up over the 10 years in dentistry, that I could go and work somewhere else in dentistry. So it was a bit of a risk, but it never really felt like that. So the genesis of it was I was due to have a sabbatical and I was going to go to Japan, but I had a bit of an epiphany after 10 years, and I was like, okay, I've been here for 10 years. What's my next 10 years going to look like? And it's interesting when you look back 4 years ago. I think at FMC, we were really heavily reliant on selling print advertising, and credit where credit's due. And I don't know whether I was the catalyst for it happening, but they've done a really, really good job of shifting their media more towards the digital field. But at the time, I was a bit nervous that I was going to be approaching 40, still driving up and down the country and saying, Andy, Chris, will you buy this half-page advert, please, in dentistry publication? So I felt, I've always thought I'd like to give my own thing a crack. So Ken and I met, and we went for dinner. And I just said to him, thanks very much for all the opportunities, but I'm going to leave. And he said, what are you going to do? And I didn't really know at the time, but I thought there was a gap in the market there for to do some more digital things and to offer sales support to companies. And obviously, and you will probably have experienced it as well. What you start out with isn't necessarily how it ends up.
No.
And where I noticed there was a real gap in the market was for typically international companies looking to break into the UK market. And they used to use it as a stepping stone for the rest of Europe, obviously, particularly American companies I'm working with. And obviously they love the UK, it's the same language, and they use it as a stepping stone to the rest of Europe. And I was saying to dental companies in America when I was going to, Chicago meetings and New York dental show, rather than, if you were looking at those markets, rather than setting up from scratch, full-time staff, full-time offices, all the legal loopholes that you have to jump through, rather than doing that, use me as a sales and marketing hub, and you can rely on me and my 10 years worth of experience and contacts. I can introduce you, for example, to key opinion leaders, to the big corporate groups, and I think I can make a quicker change for you, and you can have a quicker impact on the market, and it'll be far more cost effective as well. So that's the largesse of what I do. That's the main crux of my business. It's consultancy, if you like, for international dental companies looking to break into the UK.
Yeah, which actually you can see there's real value in that, because
yeah.
it also gives the opportunity to
try before you buy.
Well,
almost.
yeah, you don't have to invest too heavily. Okay, sure, you're going to charge them a fee, which is very fair and reasonable, but there's no infrastructure that goes with it. You know, you can introduce them, and if after 6, 9, 12, 18 months they say, right, we really now see it's an opportunity, and they decide to set up an office, then that's great. Your job's worked.
Absolutely.
But also, if they choose not to, it's worked as well, because they've been able to test the market for a fraction of the cost as it would have been in terms of employing people and setting up offices and everything else.
And does that still work with Brexit, Joe, or has that sort of disappeared, or is that business still there, or just harder to get them into Europe?
No, it's still working. It's still working. In all honesty, it hasn't had much of an impact at all, if any.
Okay, that's interesting. Oh, cool. Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is good to hear.
And one other thing you did that I loved was during lockdown, you did this Fast Tracking Your Future initiative, which was basically you giving your time in exchange for a charity donation, where people could book a 1 hour Zoom with you, and you talk them through your experience of dentistry, what the dental landscape looks like, answer their questions. And I think you were probably bowled over yourself with how many people signed up for it. I think you did something like, was it 50 or 60 Zooms in a week or whatever it was?
Wow.
I'm not sure what the number was. It was a ridiculous number. And you've done it again. So talk us through kind of how that came about. And it's an incredibly generous thing to do, to give such an amount of your time to support the young end of the profession, but also with the charity link as well.
That's very kind of you to say. Thank you very much. Yeah, it was Amit Patel. Actually, I don't know if you know Amit, the specialist periodontist up in Birmingham. I was watching all these people do these amazing things throughout COVID, and I thought, I'd like to really do something. And but I'm, fairly talentless, useless. And then he was like, "You don't understand, Joe, the knowledge that you have. There's lots of people out there that would be interested to hear about that." And it just so happened there were lots of people that were really keen to find out about how to get published, about how to enter awards, what courses there were out there, what commercial opportunities there were. And it just seemed to snowball. But I genuinely say this, I think I got just as much out of it as they did, because firstly, it enabled me to expand my network and meet new people and learn new things. It was a great data gathering exercise, because you're learning about young people, how are they absorbing their information as far as products and services are concerned. But also I met some incredible people, like lots of people who I would consider, great friends, who I've gone on to socialize with and work with in different capacities as well. So it's I've done it now for the last 3 years. I think we do about 100 every May. And genuinely though, by the end of May, I'm so sick to death of my own voice.
But I think it's a really good thing, and it's interesting what you're saying. I hadn't thought about the byproduct and the side benefit for you
as well, isn't it?
Yeah, but that market research, that intel gathering for you to get into the heads of younger dentists in terms of what the things that are important to them,
their drivers are. It's quite useful.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Each year there's been almost a different reoccurring theme. So a lot of the time people are saying, "Do I have to be on social media?" And particularly in COVID times, there were lots of people who were suffering from, issues of imposter syndrome or burnout, depression, which is, I'm not a qualified psychotherapist, so you have to be really careful with those conversations. But it's just really interesting to hear some of the reoccurring themes about what's happening among young dental professionals.
Right, yeah. And you've recently kicked off something new again, and there's a recurring theme here as well, isn't there? It's like you get you don't get bored quickly, but you're constantly working on the next thing. That's my take on you. There's always a new thing in the pot. I know we've had conversations over the years, and I've got an idea, and the ideas keep coming. But this one, which is the dental debate that you're doing later on this year, talk us through that. That's quite an interesting concept. I don't think it's been done before, has it?
There's definitely been loads of panels over the years, but we wanted to do something a bit different. So I'm doing it with a couple of guys from a group called Sustainable Clinics. And honestly, I met these guys. In fact, actually, I met Mehi Lopresti through the Fast Tracking Your Future scheme. And we were speaking, and I think he was drinking a glass of wine at the time. And if you meet Mehi, he's not your conventional dentist whatsoever. He's like a super cool guy, one of these beautiful souls. They go to Burning Man every year. Like, he's the antithesis of me, right? He's super cool. Like, his shirt's unbuttoned. He's got the chains and the rings and everything like that. He's just a dude, right? If you meet this guy, he's an absolute dude. So he said to me, I want you to come and meet my business partner, Bruno, from Sustainable Clinics. And again, Bruno is an equally fascinating guy. Quite nauseating, the pair of them, if I'm being honest, because they're so handsome and they're so talented that you want to hate them, but you can't but not. Yeah. I mean, I've heard the same said about you two before, actually, but we won't go into that. So
you might have to go a long way to find people saying that about us.
Yeah.
The science of us cool.
It was after a few drinks, but no.
I know the event.
Yeah. Less said about that, the better. So Mehi's reached out to me, and he's like, "We want to do something. Can you come and meet me and my business partner Bruno from Sustainable Clinics?" And Bruno, fascinating character, came over here from Brazil, 17 years old, collecting glasses. Now he has 9 businesses, including a record label. He pretty much owns half of Hackney Wick. It's incredible. He's got a pizza restaurant. He's just a really, really impressive guy. Now, what these guys are doing is they are actually building dental practices inside of shipping containers, totally powered by the earth. And then their plan is to rehouse them around the world in areas of high oral health need. So immediately I'm like, wow, these guys are visionaries. I have to work with them. And Bruno has this amazing venue in Hackney Wick called Number 90 Bar and Restaurant. It's on the canal. There's a boat there. They have concerts next door and everything. And I had this vision about, we can do something incredible here. We can do something incredible together. So we came up with this idea of this dental debate, and it's taking components of a lot of what else I do as well. So from the Fast Tracking Your Future calls, it was like, let's discuss some of the most contentious subjects facing dentists today. But let's do things a little bit differently, whereby we want to have a live audience participation. So we're going to have voting. So let's say, for example, we're going to have panelists, and we've got international panelists from all around the world, some of the biggest names out there. They will discuss a topic, let's say to social media, but then there will be questions on social media or around that subject where the audience will be able to get vote on, and it will actually navigate the conversation throughout the course of the evening.
That's interesting.
Cool.
So
really cool.
There's loads of people doing great things out there, with podcasts and with articles. But we just wanted to really, really move the needle by having a big night. We're going to get all the media there. There's already a great, great crowd of people coming, and just really kind of make a change in terms of put it at the forefront of people's minds about some of these difficult subjects that we're going through as well. So yeah. And then after that, we're going to have a huge party.
I was just about to say, if Joe Lovett was involved, I'd be very disappointed if there wasn't
going on
drinks, dancing, and music.
Yeah, and like I say, the venue, it's just like nothing. Forget the NEC, forget the Excel Centre. It's a really, really cool venue. I can't wait for it. And with the very, very gracious sponsorship of Real Good Dental and Pearl AI, we've been able to make it a super affordable event for the whole dental team, and secondly, and this is either going to go one way or another, It's actually free drink all night.
Oh, there you go.
And because it's a private party, there's no closing time. So it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully we can talk about some real burning issues, but also I want people to come, network, meet other great like-minded people, but also have a great night as well. So yeah, I genuinely can't wait.
No, it should be good.
Yeah.
It should be good. And if you could give us perhaps the link where people can find out more about it, we'll put it in the show notes so that when people are listening to this podcast, because this will go out before the event, because the event's in the end of September, is that right?
23rd of September, in Hackney Wick, London.
Yeah, so we'll put the, like I say, if you can let us have the link, we'll drop that in the show notes.
And gentlemen, I really appreciate that. I would love it if you two would come along as my VIP guests. You guys have always been very supportive to me over the years. So, and it's going to be a great night. So why should you not be involved?
Yeah,
I'll send you a video from holiday. I'll send you a message.
Oh, you can count me in. I'll be there.
Yeah, so Chris will go on our behalf.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm on holiday, unfortunately. Yeah, no, I'm taking a family break. So, but it's going to be a great night. It's going to be brilliant.
Yeah,
well,
I like the idea of the debate would be quite interesting. Is the drink before the questions or after the questions?
I think there may be some during. So
that'd be quite funny.
And I've deliberately got some contentious
anonymous. Are they anonymous questions? So is it like that? What was that thing we used? That we used some app where people could sit in the audience and ask questions that would come up on the screen, but you wouldn't know who the question was.
So again, a slight innovation. Everybody, when they sign up for their ticket, they can put down questions or they can put down topics that they'd like to discuss. So we want to gauge people's thoughts.
Oh, I see.
Both pre, during, and post the event as well, to see whether the debate has actually altered their mindset or their thinking or their beliefs. So yeah, it's
it'd be really interesting, wouldn't it, to see what the people come with, and then those questions are talked about, and then whether that spurs other questions, and then what the outcome of that, whether those, that'd be quite fascinating actually. So there's probably some good old data that's going to be knocking around out of that, I'd have thought.
I'm sorry you can't make it, Andy, but we want to do this again. We want to take this around the world. So, like I say, I'm working with two big visionaries. So, we'll definitely get to the future ones.
Yeah, it sounds really good. So, with the kind of the dental debate concept and what you're developing there, and the fast track your future, you've obviously got great insights in terms of the future health of dentistry and where it's going and what it's looked like. What's your view on where's dentistry going? What are the big things that are coming down the line that we might not be aware of?
Well, I'm sure you guys are aware of it, but definitely there's going to be a growth in corporate dentistry and the rise of the mini corporates. I've just got back from Marbella with Dental Forum out there, and it's really interesting. These guys have all huge plans to acquire more practices. So I think when I started in dentistry 14 years ago, the percentage of corporately owned practices was around about 8%. Now I believe it's closer to 26%. So it's going to go further that way. So that's definitely going to have an impact. I also think technology will have an impact. It's going to potentially level up general dentistry. There'll obviously still be a place for general dentistry. So I think it's really, really key and important for young dental professionals coming up now that you work just as much on the softer side of things, the business side of things, as well as the clinical side of things. Things like patient communication and ethical sales and how you market yourself. They're going to be really, really important heading forward in dentistry, I believe.
And I agree with you. And I think one of the challenges, and this is probably something that possibly needs to be best explained to the dentists within the profession, is the investment in those skills. Because when you're at dental school, all the training is around clinical skills, so that you come out as a competent clinical, dental technician. Technically, you're good at what you do. But trying to get people to understand the importance of understanding marketing, or how to manage people well, or how to devise a strategy, or how do you get your team behind your vision, those sorts of things don't have an immediate impact,
Exactly.
but the long-term impact of those is enormous. But I think there's probably a shift in dentistry needed where people invest in their non-clinical training to the extent that they invest in their clinical training, and I'm not sure we're there yet.
They're on the way, though, aren't they?
But they will get there, honestly. Of the 100 people that I spoke to this May, the younger dental professionals, like genuinely blown away. You know, these guys, 26, 27 years old, average age, I would say, are just some of the things that they're doing, how conscientious they are, how ambitious they are, how caring and kind they are, the things that they're doing in the community. I'm so buoyant about the future dentistry. And when I think back to when I was 26, 27, I literally lived off of toasted cheese and ham sandwiches and just played PlayStation. I was a slob. But yeah, so seeing these people, it leaves me feeling really, really genuinely confident about the future of dentistry.
Yeah. we were all slobs.
Yeah.
We're
Nothing
not.
wrong with a toasted cheese sandwich, I'm thinking.
was gonna
Did
say-
you have ham and mustard? That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I mean, all the time, Chris. I'm not talking about like 2 or 3 meals a day.
That was your meal.
Yeah, exactly.
A meal of choice.
You from the things you've said today, you're obviously massive on collaboration. You love bringing parties together and kind of, you know, getting a different outcome as a result of people coming together. What's kind of your driving force? What's your formula for the right fit when you try and put people together? Whether it's a young dentist and they might have key opinion leader potential, or you've got an overseas company in America and you've got something in the UK. What are those ingredients that go into that pot that you think make for good partnerships?
Well, I just think positivity is obviously a massive factor. I don't think that I have many talents myself, but the one talent I do possess is seeing talent in others. So I've spoken to a couple of people in previous days, and I've genuinely come off the phone, some young dentists, and just been excited, like these guys are going to make a change within our sector. And I think you'd be great speaking to them because that's a company that's going to be making a change.
Yeah.
And I have an abundance mentality. I think the more collaborations we do, for the better. I really believe in bringing great people together. And I think by and large, dentistry is full of great people. Obviously, you get the odd knobhead slip through the net, but I'm sure that happens in every single industry.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think by virtue of dentistry being supported by lots of small independent companies, I think we all do better by collaborating, working together. I think it's hard 100%. Just to kind of, cover definitely. Out all those bases. So through your career then, what's the thing that you've worked out that most people haven't got an answer to?
Oh, can you repeat that question?
What's the one thing that you've worked out that you've got an answer to that most people don't know? That's put you on the spot, isn't it?
Yeah, it really has. I tell you one thing that kept coming up was I gave a lecture a few weeks ago at Leeds Dental School, which was a really monumental moment for me because I studied at Leeds. So to go back there was really, really proud moment. So very grateful to them for inviting me back. And I said in my presentation, I believe in the importance of networking. And then a few people have said to me in recent times, we hear you on podcasts and we were there at presentation. We hear you saying to people, you've got to network. But how do you network? And it really got me thinking, as somebody from a big family, somebody who by their very nature is a gregarious, confident person, is something that comes naturally to me, but I didn't appreciate that doesn't necessarily come naturally to other people. So lots of people were saying, I understand I have to network and build relationships and that will help me in my career. But what are the specifics that I need to do?
Yeah, interesting.
That's interesting. I think it's also about meaningful relationships because I think so often people they build relationships, but there's no substance to it. They just know lots of people, but it's having, but don't they? It's having that art of being able to truly develop relationships where there's some value, some ongoing value that sits in it. And that's kind of that stage on from just networking and you end up with,
Just
back in
having
the
a book
day,
of
you end up with
people
lots
you
of
know.
business cards, which is of no
Drawer
use at
full of
all.
business cards,
You
but
need to
no one knew
you need to
anyone.
know the people that go on, what goes on behind it.
Well, the modern day equivalent is having loads of Instagram followers. So
Yeah.
it's great having loads of
Yeah.
Instagram followers, but what's the engagement? Do you know who's following you? Are you talking to them? Why are they following you, for example? I think
Yeah.
Among the younger dentists coming through, is that still a big thing for them? Is social media, Instagram, their profile, how they're perceived? Have we kind of turned a corner yet on that?
no, quite honestly, probably not what you want to hear.
No, not at all. And it's more just out of interest because, like I say, I think the insights you're getting from people who are just coming into the profession is really valuable.
Young people are glued to their phones. It's just a fact. So social media whether it's the TikTok platform, whether it's Instagram platform, I think the platforms will change over time, but it's going to be a really important component of dental lives going forward. It's interesting. I've had a few people, probably closer to my age in recent times, saying, life is great. I got brilliant practice, brilliant mentor, brilliant patients, love the dentistry that I'm doing. Home life was brilliant. But I have this creeping FOMO about social media. Am I missing out by not being on it? And I always say to those people, absolutely not. Absolutely not. There are lots of people who are on social media and are very prevalent on social media who would swap places with you in a heartbeat. So it's not the be all and end all social media, but it's definitely a component. And I think to deny that, we'd just be kidding ourselves. And that's why at the Dental Debate, we are talking about social media, because every single person on every single call I have raises it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you need to understand why you're using social media. I think if you use it as a distribution method for messages which are business related, personally, I find it really valuable. I find it a great tool. But you don't want to go down the rabbit hole of it purely just being for likes and a persona. I think if there's an underlying message as to why you're doing things, because there's a business using it as a business tool, I think there's power in it. But I think there's a real risk that it just consumes extraordinary
100%.
amounts of your time.
You have to have a really mature relationship with social media, and you have to find your level of how it works for you in a positive way. If it's having a negative impact, you're looking at people's holiday photos and you're getting jealous or FOMO, I think that's where you have to be mature and have the presence of mind to walk away from it for a time.
Yeah.
Very true.
So your episode is going out under the title "Building a Tribe."
Oh, really?
Because I think, I think that's what you've done. I think that the way you've gone about building your network, your relationships and your business, that's what you've done. Because I think where you pull like-minded people together, that's effectively what you get. You get a tribe of people. And it was that conscious? Are you surprised that's the way you're perceived?
I don't know. I wish you told me that title beforehand. I would have done this podcast with my shirt off and some wall paint on, Again, it's just something that's happened organically, I think. And I just, like I say, I've met so many great people and bring them together, and then they get on with each other, and it just sort of snowballs, and other people will think, that they look like a fun group. And I think it's just something, again, that's happened organically. It's not something like, I want to get a group of people together. It's just happened naturally.
So how would you define success? What does success look like for you?
For me, health and happiness. I've never been one who has thought a lot about finance or material goods, and in a weird kind of way, I think I was doing with my business a lot of what people realised throughout COVID, and built something that you believe in, that you love and that you enjoy, but also have that balance of being able to meet a friend for lunch, or being able to go to the gym at a certain time of the day. So yeah, I think health and happiness, and the health and happiness of my friends and family, that's the be all and end all, quite frankly.
And I think in the work that you do, that's a great message to preach as well, because you're right. I think it's very easy to end up just going through the motions, the treadmill of life. And I know lots of dentists in particular feel that when they're tired in a surgery, that life can be a bit of a treadmill. And you kind of feel that you're kind of turning up and just treating patients and not a lot else is going on. So that message of health and happiness and enjoy what you're doing is really powerful.
I speak to a lot of them who are in that hamster wheel of not enjoying things. And I have to be very, very conscious because, being a white, male, cisgender, middle class, I'm afforded opportunity to make change. But I always try and say to people, if you're not happy, make a change. And I appreciate that it's easier said than done. But I really believe that if you're unhappy or your health is deteriorating, you should do everything within your power to try and make a change for the positive.
And I guess also ideally with lots of the younger ones, you give them the tools and the tips and the experience of other people so they don't find themselves in that position to start with. Because there's no doubt that well-being and mindfulness, we were speaking to Mara Kwaja about it. Amazing. And I think her whole approach of giving people tools to become resilient and not end up kind of going down those rabbit holes, that's where ideally we want to get to. So you don't have to put in place strategies to recover. You just live a good life.
Exactly. And again, that's a lot of what I've done. And Maruk has been fantastic with me. So through my fast tracking of future calls, there's a lot of stuff whereby I'm out of my depth and I say, okay, I'm not qualified to talk to you about this. However, I would like to introduce you to somebody like Maruk. And there's been so many people within dentistry who have reached out to people that I've introduced them to that have perhaps been going through difficult times, and they've helped them as well. So, it's honestly a great community that we've got at the moment. I really believe in it.
Yeah, I think it is, and I think, like you say, in any market there's going to be knobheads, but they are few and far between in dentistry. Yeah, that was your word, not mine.
No, I stand by it.
I don't know if you remember it. I don't know if you remember it, but you did use it.
No, I stand by it.
But they are few and far between. I agree. I think as a community, the overwhelming majority of people in dentistry are out to help one another. They are supportive.
And they do it quietly as well. They do it quietly.
Yes, no, that's right. Yeah, no, you're right. There's a lot of good stuff that you never hear about that goes on behind the scenes.
Doesn't appear on social media going, look how great I am.
Yes.
Anyway.
That's right, yeah. The picture of the person crouching down, putting a penny in the
Just very, very quickly, I spoke to a girl two nights ago, and she won at her university overall student. So she won in healthcare for being a dentist, but then she won overall student at 40,000 students. And she kept it to herself, didn't put it on social media or anything like that. I was just so blown away by that. I thought it was really impressive.
Oh, and it's funny because when you hear things like that, those are the little chinks that kind of just make certain people think, right, so what's important?
I don't need someone else's adoration.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, I don't necessarily need that. So we always wrap up in the same way, Joe. We always ask the guests the same two questions. So we're going to put you on the spot.
Dun, dun, dun.
So our first question we have for you is, if you could be a fly on the wall with someone in a certain situation, when would that be and who would be in the room?
I thought about this and I've listened to some of your other podcasts and everybody always says really profound things. And I was just
yours is going to be to do with football, isn't it?
No, it's not. I am... hey, come on, you're doing me a disservice. I'm not that much of a knuckle-dragging oik. It's far less impressive than that. You know KFC, right?
Yeah.
You know it's delicious. Yeah? We're all in agreement here?
We are in agreement.
Okay.
I'm just interested in where this is going.
Yeah, same way. He wants to be the person who's taken that order, who manages to not put your chips in it.
No. I would like to be a fly on the wall when Colonel Sanders came up with the 11 secret herbs and spices.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if he ever thought it would still be here in years to come.
Exactly.
And do you reckon there was a bit of a eureka moment when he put in that final little bit of garlic salt or whatever it is? He was like, "Oh, I've hit it. This is it. This is it."
I'm sure, probably having tasted it, like 6 of the 11 are probably more salt. Let's just sling some more in. I like to think there was no science behind it. Like, let's just throw some more of that in. And it was like, wow, that's delicious. And I have no intention of like making it at home. I just think it would be like a cool thing to know. Like maybe like, chatting up girls at bars, like, you know what the 11 secret herbs and spices are. I reckon
I'm sure you've got better lines than that, Joe.
Is it kept in a locked cupboard somewhere? Is it Pepsi or something? The whatever it is, the
Iron Brew
ingredients for Coca-Cola is only known by one person or something.
I know there's a cute story in America. They have this sweet called a Tootsie Roll, which is a brown, chewy sweet. And I think whether it's legend, folklore or truth, I'm not entirely sure. But apparently what they do is every time they make a batch of Tootsie Roll, they take a piece of the batch before and put it into the new batch. And the reason for it being is that there's always a bit of the original Tootsie Roll that was ever made in every Tootsie Roll that's made, because I take a piece from the previous batch and put it into the current batch. So it's kind of a continuum. It's always got something in there. But to be honest, Joe, I would be surprised if we get anybody else cite Colonel Sanders in there. I'm now mildly worried because of my follow-up question. So my follow-up question is, if you could meet anyone
in a white suit
with a long beard and a red bow tie.
Does he have a hat? No, he doesn't have a hat.
Right, so we're going to see if we can now break away from fast food. If you could meet anyone,
don't worry, it's not Colonel Sanders or Ronald McDonald.
It's Ronald. Yeah.
Do you know the Hamburglar though? No.
It's Barry Burger King.
Yeah. So I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm a huge NBA fan.
Oh, right, no.
Yeah. And I actually like NBA more than I like football. Like, if you were to ask me if I'd rather watch a football game or an NBA game, it's NBA. So, I got into NBA around about the turn of the millennium with the Shaq and Kobe days. So, I was a little bit after the Michael Jordan era.
Okay.
I assume you've seen The Last Dance, though.
Exactly. And so that was on during COVID, and they kind of, I don't know if you remember, but they drip fed the episodes. So now with like Prime or Netflix, they just dump all 10 episodes of a series on. So, but they did that old school. They only released 2 a week. And at the time, obviously, we were in lockdown. We couldn't go anywhere. Couldn't have any fun. I was living with a racist and, a horrible chihuahua that used to attack me. Story for another day, won't go into it. So I used to really, really look forward to The Last Dance every week. And because it was like so many people were watching it, I got loads of text messages from people who knew I was a massive NBA fan, like coming out the woodwork saying, "Oh, are you watching The Last Dance? It's amazing." But I've heard so many stories about Michael Jordan outside of it. And apparently he just has the most unbelievable presence when he enters the room. Obviously, he's like a huge dude. He's like 6'6", a card from the gods athlete. But apparently he has this aura about him where just like whatever room he walks into, all the energy is there. And I think I'd just love to experience that.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. It would be pretty cool. I didn't see it when it came out because I watched it kind of back to back. But a fascinating character.
Oh, dude.
Phenomenal in terms of what he expects from people and what he'll do himself.
And if he had a pair of his shoes, didn't they sell some ridiculous $1 million or something for a pair of his shoes?
Yeah.
I think my favourite Michael Jordan story was when they had the Dream Team in Barcelona. and they just absolutely obliterated everybody. You know, like the opposition players were asking them for autographs at halftime and the shirts and things. Well, apparently he lost to another player there in table tennis, and unbeknownst to everybody else, he was absolutely raging about it. And him being the ultra competitor, what he did was the following summer, so 1993, he invited the dream team round his house for a reunion. But little did they know, they said it was going to be a barbecue and, you know, a celebration of the gold